If the IVF process is a mystery to you, you are not alone. Hi, my name's Gemma. I went through 2 rounds of IVF treatment to have my first daughter, Charlie, and these are the things that I wish I knew beforehand. I must say that I went into the process fairly ignorant. I really didn't know much about IVF at all, so it did seem very overwhelming to start with. The first thing I really wish I knew is that eggs don't necessarily turn into embryos. After you have your egg collection, they will come and tell you how many eggs they were able to collect. In my case, the first round that I did, I got 8 eggs. So I thought, this is great, we've got 8 eggs in the bank ready to go, but this was not the case. You actually need for the IVF process is an embryo, and it has to be a good quality embryo. Once your eggs are collected, it takes about 5 days before they know whether they are good enough quality for them to then go ahead with the IVF procedure. So with the first round, I got 8 eggs. Out of those 8, only 4 of them were mature enough to go ahead with. And then of those 4, only 1 of them actually became a good quality embryo. The second round that we did, we only got 4 eggs. And again, only 1 of those turned into a viable embryo. Second thing I wish I knew is that egg quality matters. So while some people might get a lot of eggs, it doesn't necessarily mean they're good quality. For example, people with PCOS tend to get a lot more eggs, but they might not actually be of good quality that will turn into an embryo. The next thing I wish I knew is that diet is important, and there are things that you can do to help the IVF process. There are certain supplements you can take, such as fish oil is a really good one, and also things that you might want to avoid, such as caffeine. I wasn't actually told any of this information at my IVF clinic. It was sort of things that I had to learn by doing my own research, and I think that it did help the second time around. The next thing I wish I knew is that acupuncture can be really helpful. There's actually a lot of really good research and studies available that you can find easily on acupuncture and how it can help the IVF process. If you use acupuncture throughout your IVF process, they'll have different times that you'll go. For instance, you'll go the day before your embryo transfer. They stimulate different points in the body depending on what you need. If nothing else, it's a very relaxing experience, and you really cannot get enough relaxation during what can be quite a stressful time. My next tip would be to see a pelvic floor specialist. I didn't see one until I actually got pregnant, but it would have been really useful for me in the IVF process. And that's because I have a very overactive hypertonic pelvic floor, and it can cause a bit of pain when you're having all of these investigations done, as well as the egg collection and the embryo transfer. I found those quite painful. Now, some people don't find them painful at all, so don't worry, it might not be you, but I would have really benefited from seeing a pelvic floor specialist who could help me learn how to relax those muscles so that I didn't have that pain. And that leads me to my next point. The first time I had my embryo transfer, it was very painful for me and stressful. I was actually crying through the whole thing. I didn't realize that you can ask for a green whistle. So the second time I went, I said, can I please have one of those green whistles that I use for the egg collection? It's basically you suck on it and it makes you feel like you've had a whole bottle of wine. It feels lovely, and it makes the whole process so much less stressful. You just need to wait a bit before you drive anywhere. So ask for a whistle. One other tip on the same point of the embryo transfer is that they tell you to have a full bladder. I took this to mean that it needs to be really, really full, and I was absolutely busting, and I think that made the process a whole lot worse. It needs to be full, but not overly full, so you don't need to go to extremes like I did. And my last and maybe the most important point is to just be careful who you decide to tell about the journey. So just think carefully about who you want to let into this process, because if you have people asking you questions all the time, it might not be what you want or need. I chose to just tell a select few people who are very close to me so that I had support, but I didn't always have a lot of questions coming saying, how's it going? How's it going? If you're very extroverted, you might like to have those questions, but for me, I'm a bit more of an introvert and I prefer to keep it private. So that concludes my list of things that I wish I had known before the IVF process. I hope that if you're going for IVF, this was helpful to you, and I wish you all the best on your journey.